The Elements of Friendship, Book 1, Harmony, by Armis Bergeland. Chapter 5, A Generous Spirit. What? Twilight caught herself. In her excitement, she had almost forgotten about the hypnotized guard pony. Crescent Rose shushed Twilight, gesturing for the group to stay hidden behind the bush as she put her helmet back on. Peering through a small hood in the brush, Twilight saw Crescent Rose addressing the other guard, keeping watch over Diurin.
What was the disturbance?
He asked in a flat monotone.
Nothing, really, she said lightly. Just a chameleon among the heliotrops.
The guard nodded at this, seemingly satisfied with this answer. As he resumed his watch, Crescent Rose glanced back at the bush and jerked her eyes toward the cliffs repeatedly. Realizing what it was that the bet pony was indicating, Twilight began to light up a spell matrix in her mind, her Dwemer shimmer lighting up.
Twilight!
Hissed Rainbow Dash.
What in tarnation are you doing?
Asked Applejack.
I need something to toss to distract the guards,
Twilight explained.
something that is sure to grab their attention.
How about a little thundercloud?
Offered Rainbow Dash, producing one from a saddlebag. Twilight thought about it, scratching her chin with a hoof.
I don't think so. Who's to say if the thunder was from such a small cloud will be enough to gain their attention? If it's attention you want to get,
Piggy said gleefully,
then how about a party popper?
The pink party pony produced one such item from her saddlebag. It was relatively small, and Twilight had doubts to its effectiveness.
This is hardly any better than Rainbow's cloud, Pinky,
Twilight said shortly.
I think you got something there, Twilight,
whispered Applejack. You ain't heard one of Pinky's party poppers, have ya?
Well,
Twilight conceded.
maybe if we had a whole bunch of them.
Oh, I don't think so, Nellie, replied Applejack.
Only if we want to blow out every bat pony's eardrums for here at the cow sale.
Twilight looked down at Pinky's party popper.
Could it really hold such a bang that one would be enough to catch the attention of all the guards around the gates?
Well, it can't hurt, can it? She said, taking the party popper in her Dwemer shimmer and winking it to a small distance from where they came up. She could see it, a small glimmer of pink magic just within earshot, hopefully, of the Diurin.
You might want to cover your ears, every pony,
warned Pinkie Pie, doing just that.
Better do as she says, Twa,
said Applejack, pulling her Stetson down tightly over her ears. Her three fellow other pony villagers got down on their bellies and pressed their ears to their heads. Arcing an eyebrow, Twilight decided to trust Applejack's judgment and cover her own ears, ducking for cover just in case. With a little twist of her Dwemer shimmer, Twilight pulled the party popper string. Even with her ears covered, it still felt like Twilight had heard a cannon blast. This was not a party popper. It was more like a party blaster. Twilight could swear that she felt a minuscule sonic ripple across her muscle as she lay in the dewy grass. Removing her hose from her ears, though, it seemed as though it had been a success.
What in Equestria was that?
Shouted Crescent Rose, sounding genuinely surprised.
If she wasn't a guard, she'd do good on Bridalway,
Twilight thought with a smile.
It sounded like cannon fire,
shouted one of the hypnotized unicorn guards, who somehow managed to shout in a monotone.
Go investigate it,
ordered Crescent Rose.
I'll keep watch over the moon gate.
In an instant, every single member of the Nightmare Guard, apart from Crescent Rose, abandoned his or her post, investigating off in the distance for a cannon that would turn out not to be there.
Brilliant work, friends,
cheered Crescent Rose as the seven approached.
So, how do we get in?
Rainbow Dash asked, looking up at the gate. It seemed to be wrought from a single piece, and had no apparent hisses. Crescent Rose giggled to herself, extending her right wing, the one facing the gate. She wiggled her wings thumb teasingly, before touching her wing to the solid iron. To Twilight's eye, trained to spot magic where it occurred, the iron of the moon gate seemed to go slightly less opaque, almost like it was smoke that was just beginning to clear.
Quick! Get through the gate before they come back!
Hissed Crescent Rose, gesturing with a forehold for Twilight to pass through. Rainbow Dash tilted her head.
I don't see any. Wait! Twilight!
Twilight had already galloped straight into the moon gate, passing through it with ease, as did Spike on her back. She felt no resistance, but an oppressive feeling came upon her as she passed, as though there were some will that did not desire her presence in the newly refurbished Canterlot. Twilight trotted to the side, which caused Spike a small bit of confusion.
Why did you move over here, Twilight?
He asked. Twilight pointed with a cloven hoof to the gate, and immediately the remaining 5 members of their party passed through at various speeds. Rainbow Dash first, Applejack second, Pinky third, Rarity fourth, and Fluttershy last. Well, girls, now we're in Canterlot, Twilight said with a heavy air, looking down the street, taking in the darkened street lamps and empty windows. Stay close to me. We're going to need to be careful not to trip any security alerts.
You might have an easier time than you think, Twilight Sparkle,
Came a voice from the moon gate. Crescent Rose was passing through the moon gate, solidifying it behind her as her leonine tail passed through.
What are you doing here?
Twilight asked. Won't they get suspicious if you're not keeping an eye on the gates? Crescent Rose shrugged.
The night guard is still young, so they will be in top form. The ones who Nightmare Moon hypnotized will be too driven to summon backup to investigate that they won't notice my absence. And the ones who she couldn't hypnotize, well, they'll be on our side anyway, won't they?
Twilight scratched her chin. I guess. She gestured toward Crescent Rose. About how many of the Royal Guard have been mind-controlled by Nightmare Moon?
Just under half, Twilight Sparkle,
said Crescent Rose.
Slightly more in the Day Guard, though, have fallen under Nightmare Moon's control. The captain, however, is of his own mind.
If Crescent Rose expected Twilight to respond favorably to her emphasis on the captain, she was sorely disappointed. Twilight merely blinked and snapped, What about him? Crescent Rose's ears went back slightly.
Well, it's just he's in the prison block. I know his exact cell number. I thought you'd want to free him.
Nightmare Moon hasn't hurt him, has he?
Well, no. But I thought since
that he's fine where he is, Twilight said with a degree of cold finality that told the others that more than enough had been said on the subject.
Twilight,
asked Fluttershy, the nearest to the lavender unicorn and pale bat pony.
Shouldn't we be on our way? If that's what we're doing.
Twilight dug in her hooves. You're right. We have to find that book.
A book?
Asked Crescent Rose.
Don't you have the elements of harmony?
Nightmare Moon shattered them, Twilight answered darkly. We need to find a book to figure out how to fix them again.
Which book?
Studies on Ponyville culture. Crescent Rose tilted her head.
What would a book on Seaver culture have to do with the elements of harmony?
I'll explain on the way, Twilight said, pointing a hoof down the thoroughfare. Let's go, every pony.
I've always dreamed of going to Canterlot,
Verity gasped, her breath misting in front of her muzzle in the chill of Canterlot's air.
But never like this.
I've never imagined anything like this would happen.
Oh, not even in my worst nightmare.
Once more, Twilight found her expectations of the horrors of the change to Canterlot to be lacking. The streets were empty, as she had seen upon passing through the rechristened Diurin. But now that she was in the streets, the windows had all the curtains drawn, and in many, Twilight could see the faint flicker of a fire burning. Any business she passed was more likely than not to have a banner across the door reading, "Business closed until further notice." There were propaganda posters declaiming Nightmare Moon's greatness and denouncing Queen Celestia as a tyrant. Twilight's breath caught in her chest as the wanted posters set up of herself, Spike, and the 5 mares with her. They were plastered across the walls, windows, lampposts, parked carriages. Each poster presented a startling likeness of each of their faces, representations of their cutie marks, and the heading "Wanted for Crimes Against the Moon."
It's just awful,
Applejack murmured.
I agree,
added Crescent Rose, her tough ears flattening against her helmet.
We bat ponies have extremely sensitive eyes, so we were perfect for the night guard. But now, under Nightmare Moon, there's no daytime to rest in.
Really? Rainbow Dash said, floating down to lower to Crescent Rose's eye level.
"'Cause I thought you bat ponies would have loved Eternal Night."
"Rainbow Dash!" Twilight snapped. "I thought we talked about this."
Did you?
Crescent Rose asked Twilight, a little too curtly.
Yeah, just last chapter,
Pinkie answered. Silence met Pinkie's remark.
"You'll get used to it,"
Applejack said levelly.
"Dill's Planky being Planky."
Just ignore Rainbow Dash, Twilight asked Sir Crescent Rose. She doesn't know when to not speak her mind.
I understand. I know. I want to hear it from her,
Crescent Rose said tartly, rounding on the Cyan Pegasus. Her own vampiric fangs bared at Rainbow Dash, who alighted on the ground with flat ears.
Why is it you think I would like Eternal Night?
"Well, 'cause you bat ponies, you're really only awake at night, so I thought..."
Well, maybe you'd like if there was a night daytime Eternal, wouldn't you? I mean, you Pegasi are really only awake in the day,
snapped Crescent Rose, her bat wings flapping and hind legs leaving the ground. Rainbow Dash fell onto her haunches, looking ashamed of herself, rubbing a forearm.
Please, just let it go.
Fluttershy stepped in.
She didn't mean it.
Crescent Rose sighed heavily, her eyes closing for a moment.
I know. It's just... I don't like this everlasting night any more than you diurnals. You're stuck in a world where you feel you must sleep all the time. We bat ponies are in a world where we have to constantly stay awake.
Twilight put a hoof on the dark-maned bat pony's shoulder. It's okay. I understand. Crescent Rose smiled warmly at Twilight.
Thank you, friend.
Twilight returned a smile. For how short a time she'd known this bat pony, she felt as though she had found a friend whom she could confide in. If it were not for Twilight's, perhaps willful, lack of meaningful interaction with any pony in the Royal Guard, she felt as she had missed a long and beautiful friendship. Two friends, Twilight Sparkle and Crescent Rose, spending long nights together, reading about the stars.
Excuse me?
Fluttershy interjected, rousing Twilight from her reverie.
I'm sorry, Twilight, but we really should be going.
"All right, the book of zebra culture,"
Twilight said, cantering with renewed purpose toward Main Square. The 6 ponies followed her. Soon, they entered the residential areas of Canterlot. These areas, normally bustling with so many of the upper crusts, were now deserted. Abandoned parasols fluttered by on intermittent winds, and half-eaten meals languished at the tables of restaurants' outdoor seatings.
So, just to refresh my memory,
Crescent Rose queried,
this studies on Ponyville culture. You think it has a hidden message from the Queen on it?
I'm positive, Crescent, Twilight said with a aplomb. Queen Celestia hid the message in the first letter of each sentence, and it spelled out studies of Ponyville culture.
And do you know where to look?
Below her signature, the Queen wrote down the letters XXV. Those are old Equest numerals for 25. So, I can assume that the message is either on page 25 or in chapter 25.
I see,
said Crescent Rose pensively.
That explains why Nightmare Moon has dispatched her most formidable nightmare guards to all library entrances.
Twilight skidded to a stop, spikes sliding off her back. She heard a good number of thumps behind her as the other 5 mares came to an abrupt stop, bumping into one another.
"The library is guarded?"
Twilight gasped.
"It's never been guarded before, except for the Star Swirl the Bearded Ring."
Crescent Rose scratched the back of her head.
Well, a change in the crown, a change in the rules.
Rainbow Dash snarled at Twilight.
"Tell me you saw this coming!"
Twilight looked up at Rainbow Dash, looking so genuinely hurt that the Cyan Pegasus actually found herself backing up. I just thought, Twilight hung her head, that Nightmare Moon had the same respect for books as the Queen. They did rule together for centuries.
"I guess all that changed when the Queen and the Knight died,"
Applejack suggested. Crescent Rose nodded darkly.
Once the miasma took hold of her, The Night Queen and her power over the night sky became mere puppets.
Twilight perked up, looking at the bat pony.
The miasma? You've heard of the miasmata?
Twilight shook her head vaguely.
I've read about them somewhere, but it's been so long and the details were vague. You won't find anything on the miasmata in any decent book. The less said of them, the better.
Crescent Rose said bitterly.
The miasmata are an abominable race of eldritch beasts from the far beyond. They feed by taking control of a life form and all its powers, until the victim is exhausted. A victim can be more easily dominated if they are twisted by anger or rage.
Twilight looked at Crescent Rose in the eyes.
And it's your belief that the Queen of the Night was possessed by a miasma? All bat ponies know it to be true,
Crescent Rose said, her eyes falling into shadow.
You diurnals don't know what nameless things appear in Equestria while you sleep in bed. The nameless beast that we, the Night Guard of Canterlot, stand firm against. And I will stand firm against any eldritch horror that tries to sit on the throne, even if it masquerades as our Queen of the Night.
She finished this declaration with a stomp of her forehooves and a flare of bat wings. Then she pulled off her helmet, holding it gingerly under a wing.
Excuse me now while I strip myself of this armor, she said. We need speed, and this nightmare guard armor is too restricting.
And with that, she began to fiddle with a strap under her wings.
Please, give her to some decency, girls!
Cried Rarity, trying to drag the nearest mare, Applejack, into an alleyway.
Begging your pardon, Rarity,
Applejack said slowly, but we don't ordinarily wear clothes.
Says the only pony in the group who even wears clothes!
Rainbow Dash cut in with a sassy smile. Pinkie giggled to herself at Rainbow Dash's statement, plunking into the alleyway with Applejack and Rarity.
I see what you did there, Dashy!
Fluttershy followed after, a wig drawn up over her face to preserve Crescent Rose's decency. Twilight trotted alongside the yellow Pegasus.
It's all right, Fluttershy,
Twilight said lightly.
We'll be on our way soon.
Oh, it's not a big deal, Twilight,
Fluttershy said dismissively.
You don't have to feel like you had to rush on my account. I'm perfectly fine with a reasonably slow pace, if that's all right with you.
I always told you to quit being such a doormat!
Rainbow Dash said to Fluttershy, crossing her forelegs in front of her chest as she hovered over the rest of their posse.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Dashy,
Fluttershy said meekly, ears drooping as she rubbed a forearm.
See? There it is again! You gotta stop saying sorry about everything, too!
Sorry.
Rainbow Dash growled in frustration, but Pinkie couldn't help but giggle at the irony of apologizing about apologizing too much. A metal something the size of a pony torso flung itself down the alleyway, landing just at Twilight's hooves. In stung Crescent Rose, flicking her mane back and forth. Her cutie mark was of a thorny red rose, framed by a yellow crescent moon.
That feels much better.
Crescent Rose sighed as she stretched her forelegs, then her hind legs.
I can't believe that Nightmare Moon thinks that this is a good set of armor to wear.
She gave a none too gentle smack with a forehoof. She looked at Twilight.
So, shall we go?
Twilight nodded sharply. Let's go. Eventually, the royal castle came into view as they entered Main Square. The towering monument to Queen Celestia, set at the very edge of Canterlot, so that it may overlook the Saddle Valley almost a mile below, had dramatically changed since Twilight had last seen it. No longer was the carven white stone visible, nor were the minarets and parapets lined with gold. Black steel, sharpened to razor edges, played across the entirety of the surface of every tower. The highest towers, the towers of the sun and moon, were now fused together in a single makeshift tower. A large, gleaming, white crescent-shaped stone floating in the space above them, rotating slowly around and showing different faces over the course of a minute. Main Square had changed as well. Gone were the tapestries showing the sun and moon hanging over Queen Celestia, and the glorious golden statue of the queenly Alicorn sat at the middle of the square was gone as well. In place of the tapestries of old were newer, darker ones, displaying the moon floating on high, with a fanged nightmare moon crushing the sun under an armored hoof. The statue of Queen Celestia was substituted with a demonic statue of her usurper, rearing and baring her teeth, carved from a solid block of icy obsidian.
Are the royal archives inside the palace?
Rarity asked, agape at how different Canterlot looked from how she imagined.
No, it isn't.
Twilight answered,
They're down a side street from here, down that way.
She pointed her alicorn down the street to their right, and could make out the shapes of patrolling guards. She cursed.
Crescent Rose, dear, do you think you could ask those ruffians to sign at ease on... No can do, Miss Rarity,
replied the Bat Pony.
I'm sorry, but I can't pull rank on these guards. They have been given explicit orders to not abandon these posts unless Nightmare Moon herself gives the okay. All of them are Bat Ponies, to see in the absolute darkness, and are under hypnosis as well. So we can't appeal to their bare instincts.
Pony feathers! Swore Applejack. Ain't there anything we could do to throw them off? Twilight rubbed a fetlock under her chin.
Another party popper?
Piggy offered, holding up one in a forehoof. Crescent Rose shook her head.
We've already done that once. We can't afford to rely too heavily on one trick.
Crescent Rose is right, Twilight said.
We need to use something else. Not sound this time, but... Smell? No. Maybe sight? Ooh! Piggy procked. I got fireworks!
She produced a bundle of firecrackers from one of her saddlebags that looked twice as big as both put together. I don't think so, Pinky, Rainbow Dash muttered. Then we'll have a hard time getting into the archives.
Ah! Pinky sighed, sinking to her haunches. But I like fireworks! I think Fluttershy and fireworks are frightening.
Fluttershy breathed fearfully.
They scare so many of my apples.
I don't reckon they'll be lured from their posts by my apple wares. Applejack mused aloud. Do you think thunder scares them? Boom! Pinky clucked like a chicken and hid underneath Applejack. The group looked up sharply and caught sight of a storm cloud circling around the minarets of the royal castle, setting off lightning bolts intermittently.
Keeps the guards on edge, so they don't sleep,
Crescent Rose explained.
Nightmare Moon is running us ragged. She needs to go down. But what can we do?
Rarity asked.
Our options have run dry. We cannot figure out how to seek past of hypnotized ruffian gods, and my complexion is being ruined by this lack of true sunsight. Oh, walking the razor's edge are we?
Rarity fell onto her back, throwing her hoof to her forehead dramatically. Her eyes blinked back up and,
Idea!
She trilled, her twin shimmer lighting up and opening up one of her saddlebags. What are you doing, Rarity? Twilight asked.
This!
Rarity said loudly, her dwemer shimmer drawing out from within her saddlebag a single straight-A's razor.
Crescent Rose, darling, you said that all the gods' ponies down that particular street are your black pony kin, did you not? Yes. And if I recall correctly, black ponies are typically sensitive to light, right? They are.
Crescent Rose's eyes widened.
Oh!
Rarity, you're a genius! Twilight said brightly.
Rarity shrugged. Well, I just happen to have a flash of inspiration every now and again.
Twilight took the razor in her dwemer shimmer and twisting it around, inspecting the way that light reflected off the polished blade.
You've really taken good care of this razor, Rarity,
Twilight said sincerely. Rarity waved a hoof dismissively.
Oh, well, you know. So, we have the reflector,
Crescent Rose said.
But what of a light source?
Twilight put a hoof to her chin for the umpteenth time in the past few hours, casting her eyes around Main Square. There was nothing about the square which could conceivably output the sort of light they would need to incapacitate some bat ponies with. And it was difficult to think that with these random shouts of thunder from above, Twilight! Use that! Rainbow Dash shouted, pointing up at the storm cloud, which was crackling with lightning. Twilight's eyes lit up. Of course! Lightning! Rainbow Dash, do you think you can fly up and grab off a piece of that storm cloud? Rainbow Dash smirked. I don't think so. I know so! And with a quick salute, she bolted off toward the storm cloud, dodging side to side to avoid being struck by bolts of lightning, before thrusting her forehoofs into the dark cloud. Her wings flashed cerise, the light traveling down her forelegs and into the cloud, and a small clump about the size of Rainbow Dash herself came off in moments. Rainbow Dash was back with her group, resting on a miniature storm cloud. Twilight could not help but to think of the moment when she first met this Pegasus, when she had gotten knocked off into the mud, and drenched to the bone, and subsequently blow-dried.
Ready when you are, TS!
Rainbow Dash grinned. Twilight's horn flashed pink, and the cloud the cyan Pegasus sat on began to shimmer the same color as well. Rainbow Dash flapped off of it in surprise, but the pink glow had already faded. She tentatively alighted back on the cloud.
What was that about?
She asked.
I cast a silencing spell on the storm cloud, so that we're not deafened by the thunder going off right next to our ears,
explained Twilight.
Good thinking, Twilight,
Applejack piped in. Twilight nodded shortly.
Okay, every pony, this is the plan. I will use Rarity's razor here to reflect the light of the lightning bolts into the eyes of the Nightmare Guard. Given how sensitive their eyes are to light, it should be enough to incapacitate them long enough for us to pass.
But won't it take a while to do that for each and every guard's pony?
Fluttershy asked.
And not to mention that any one of us could be hit by a lightning bolt, Twi,
Rainbow Dash added. Twilight hesitated. The two of them raised good points. Lightning was not something that even master weather ponies could control. It was simply directed. She would be making a big gamble with her fellow ponies' lives if she carried out the plan as is. Also, the idea of flashing each guard's eye individually was a perilous notion. If any one guard noticed one of his or others going down, their stealthy air tree was for nothing. An idea flashed through Twilight's mind.
Rainbow Dash, get off the cloud for a moment,
she said shortly. Cocking an eyebrow Rainbow, Rainbow Dash nonetheless heeded Twilight's request.
Rarity,
Twilight addressed her fellow unicorn with a heavy tone.
I'm afraid your razor is going to become a lightning rod.
What?
My new plan is this. To create a magical bond between the lightning cloud and your razor, so that lightning is only attracted to the razor. I will levitate the razor past as many guards as I can. Then Rainbow Dash will make the lightning cloud discharge. The lightning bolt will shoot out to the razor, crossing the paths of each guard's gaze, biting them long enough, hopefully, for us to slip past.
Rarity looked at the razor with bereavement. For a moment.
I gave you that razor, Twilight. Use it however you will,
she said with an air of dignity.
But, Rarity, keeping clean shaven is important to you.
I must insist, Twilight. I would rather see you use that razor to save the day, literally, than see myself with a clean muzzle for the razor of this emergency.
She smiled sheepishly.
Besides, I could always just buy a new one.
Applejack palmed her face in her hoof. And you did think of this before we left Ponyville?
Twilight gaped at Rarity. Rarity, I didn't know you were so generous with your things.
Come now, Twilight, darling. Do you think I would be so selfish as to withhold something from a friend when I know they really need it? And if you recall, I didn't taught you a single fit for your fittings at Concordia.
Why was that?
You were already marred by such a physically abrasive main style. I was absolutely loath to taunt you for what was a greater inconvenience for you than for me.
But those dresses! I had to pay you back for those!
Oh, this past, darling. Most of those looked dreadful on you in hindsight. I have already dismantled them and disposed of what I could not use anymore.
So I do owe you money for them.
Twilight, please stop raising your voice. It's unbecoming of a mare to shout. And no, I insist that you not pay me for those dresses. The pursuit of a true artiste is in only one form of repayment, the satisfaction of the customer. Tell me, Twilight, did you like the last dress you tried on?
Twilight thought back on it. She had not given it altogether that much thought at the time. She was altogether more occupied with trying to prevent Nightmare Moon's return. But now, looking back on the dress,
I loved it, Rarity. I really did. Granted, the emerald was a bit of an odd choice, but I never thought of myself as much of a fashion connoisseur. But even I could tell that was a well-made dress.
Rarity's entire demeanor became serene as a swan, and the smile on her face made Twilight realize just why Spike had been so enamored of the alabaster unicorn.
Thank you, Twilight. That is more than enough payment for me. Consider the two of us even.
Twilight blinked. How could one pony be so beautiful inside and out? Rarity really was, well, a rarity.
No!
Rarity said with a new, sharper tone.
I think we've wasted enough time on pleasantries, so we proceed with the plan.
Blinking, Twilight realized they were still standing in Main Square, that the night was still eternal, and that Applejack and the others were waiting impatiently. Not Spike, though. He was staring at Rarity in absolute love-struck awe. Rainbow Dash had actually landed beside Fluttershy, resting on her haunches and folding her forelegs tightly, tapping on a high hoof.
Oh,
she said sheepishly.
Right.
As the appropriate spell matrix lined up with the nerve clusters in Twilight's Alicorn, her horn began to pulse with pink light, rather than glowing steadily. After a few seconds, the razor began to pulse with the same pink light, as did the cloud. At first, the pulses from the razor and cloud were out of sync with each other, but slowly they began to fall into rhythm. In moments, the pulses slowed, and matched each other perfectly. The pulses of Twilight's swimmer shimmer faded out, and the light radiating from the razor and cloud slowly dimmed as well.
Now, the lightning should be attracted to the razor, and the razor alone,
Twilight explained.
Get ready, every pony.
She levitated the razor down the street, leading to the Royal Canterlot Archives, taking care not to let it pass the eyeline of the patrolling Nightmare Guard. The street itself was less than 1 gross paces long from the main square to the Royal Archives, but the guard's patrol pattern allowed for a very short time frame when all of the guards were looking at the same spot.
Okay, Rainbow Dash,
Twilight said lowly, sweat beating down on her alicorn.
Send off a lightning bolt on my mark!
The razor lowered into position, just in front of the double doors into the Royal Archives.
Now, we wait for the guards to fall into position.
The guard's patrol was intended, Twilight imagined, to maximize the amount of time each of the guards was keeping watch over the road to the archives. However, the semi-erratic pattern was still a pattern nonetheless. Very soon, Twilight was beginning to tick off the seconds to the magic moment.
Now!
She hissed to Rainbow Dash, who bucked the storm cloud as hard as she could. A blinding and silent bolt of lightning shot down the street and connected instantly with the razor. Rarity winced as though struck. In a second, all 6 of the guards, who were all facing their opposite side of the cobbled road, threw their hooves and wings over their eyes, hissing and recoiling from the light, darting into the dark archways of the buildings flanking the road.
It worked!
Twilight cheered, her glimmer shimmer hold on the razor dissipating.
All right!
Said Spike, perched on Twilight's back with a clenched claw.
Yeehaw!
Applejack called out as she reared up.
Woohoo!
Piggy squealed as she jumped into the air, wiggling her hooves.
Yeah, that was like a super bolt right there!
Grinned Rainbow Dash.
Yay.
Fluttershy cheered softly.
No time for celebrating.
Let's just go!
Crescent Rose shouted, already at a full gallop. Without another word, Twilight took off at full speed after the Bat Pony, the 5 other mares following suit. As they passed the collapsed guards, Twilight could have sworn that she heard Crescent Rose uttering hasty apologies to her friends lying on the cobblestone. They barely stopped at the gates of the Royal Archives, Rarity slowing down only slightly to scoop the razor in her Dwemer Shimmer before the 7 of them galloped into the double doors, being held open by Twilight's Dwemer Shimmer. As soon as the last one's tail had cleared the threshold, Twilight slammed the door shut, leaving them in the abandoned candlelit foyer of the Royal Archives. Wasting no time, Twilight began lining up the spell matrix of another spell. In moments, the glowing pink shape of a keyhole had appeared over the door.
There,
she panted, as Spike hopped off her back.
We've bought ourselves some time. Now, we need to spread out and look for the book.
As Twilight turned around from the door and looked at the 6 mares and Drake, she noticed that their expressions were all of awe, save Crescent Rose's. To Twilight, the sight of the Royal Archives was always amazing. After all, it was the single largest place to find a book in many grosses of miles. Twilight even doubted that the Manhattan Public Library was quite so well stocked as the Royal Archives. Or at least, if it didn't beat any pony in quantity of books, the Royal Archives at least had them beat in quality. Regardless of what other libraries stocked, the Royal Archives was massive. The main chamber, just beyond the abandoned desk, normally maintained by a librarian, was massively long and wide, and almost 5 gross hooves to the ceiling, with bookshelves running at least that high. Almost all of the books at that level would have to be relieved by a Pegasus attendee, and if one could not find a subject one wanted in the main chamber, unlikely, then one would search in the adjoining restricted section, with prior approval by the librarian, of course, or in the star-swirled and bearded wing, which covered all of the successes and failures of the noted inventor of the grossest of spells. On any other day, it would have made Twilight's day to come to the Royal Archives and attempt to solve some sort of riddle or cipher of the Queen's. But this was not any other day.
Okay, every pony,
Twilight said, gearing up to gallop to the ST section.
take the ST section as pieces. Spike, Applejack, Pinky, you take the bottom shelves. Rarity and I will take the next highest. Rainbow, Fluttershy, Crescent, you 3 handle the top shelves. Got it? Got it!
Came the 6th voice reply.
Okay, go!
And they were off. But even with the 6 of them, and the fact that their search was narrowed to the ST section, there were still tens of thousands of books in that section alone. As fastidious as the staff of the archives was about keeping things as close to alphabetical order as equally possible, some errors still slipped through the cracks, and Twilight knew they had to account for this. Granted, the book Studies into Ponyville Culture was likely to be close to the bottom, as there were few ST words that were below studies. Well, there were studio, study, stun, sturdy, sturgeon, style, sticks. Why did Come Sail Away start playing in my head? Twilight rubbed the base of her Alicorn, placing stunning spells for the learned magic maker on the nearest table. Thinking of so many ST words was giving her a migraine. Was this what was it like to think like Pinky? Pinky bounced up and down on her tail like a spring, pulling out a book, looking at its cover, and placing it back on the shelf before she had even fallen back to the floor. Rainbow Applejack pulled out books with her teeth, spitting out dust, inspected the cover before putting it back where she found it. Spike dusted off book covers with a burlesque wave of his claw, though the dust tickled the insides of his nose, and he had to sneeze fire, thankfully turning away from the shelves and only igniting an empty table. Rarity took down one book at a time in her Twimmer Shimmer, while Twilight tried the same with at least a dozen apiece. Up above, Rainbow Dash was apparently pulling out books pell-mell, placing them back anywhere there was space. Crescent Rose used her wings to blow off dust, allowing her to inspect the titles on the spines. Fluttershy, apparently, had trouble keeping a grip on some of the thicker books, as Twilight had to catch many books in her Twimmer Shimmer and set them aside for reorganization. It seemed like an insurmountable task, and they had a narrow window of time. It seemed like they would be likely caught before any pony found a book. But, mere moments after Twilight had heard a minuscule, tiny, mouse-like squeak from above, "Found it!" Rainbow Dash cried out, gesturing toward Fluttershy, who was holding up a musty old tome, 4 grooves off the tiled floor.
It was between Standards for Standard Carriages and Stark and Strand, a history of 2 pony barristers. You know, standard egghead flair.
Ignoring this latest crack, Twilight smiled up at Fluttershy as she descended with Rainbow Dash and Crescent Rose. The book held in her forehoofs. The cover, with faded black stripes and strained white stripes almost indistinguishable, read, "Masquerade Studies on Ponyville Culture, Abridged Edition." Twilight's eyes twitched.
Abridged?
Twilight breathed.
There was no unabridged up there? Afraid not, Twilight Sparkle,
said Crescent Rose, alighting next to her unicorn comrade.
I've checked every book cover, and it seems that this was the only book that was misplaced before we arrived.
She leveled a glare at Rainbow Dash, who replied by pulling down an eyelid and sticking out her tongue. Sighing, Twilight placed the abridged studies on Plummelia culture on the table, inspecting the table contents. The abridged version contained only 24 chapters, 23 chapters. Grunting in frustration, Twilight rifled through pages 25. Lying between pages 24 and 25 was a folded up piece of parchment that was, compared to the dry yellow of the book pages, relatively recent. It bore a simplistic, almost full-like depiction of the sun, a circle with 8 lines pointing out from the sides. In excitement, Twilight grabbed the parchment in her Twimmer shimmer and unfolded. At last! Celestia's secret to unlocking the secret of the elements of harmony! Nightmare Moon would be defeated within the hour! And the numbers read like this: 469, 27, 53. 481, 31, 51. 472, 27, 45. 487, 11, 3x. 473, 6, 37. 48x, 35, 10. 485, 28, 36. 488, 13, 59. 676, 24, 4e. 48e, 4, 42. 46e, 14, 43. 462, 1x, 49, and it continues. Twilight's eye twitched twice. That's it? Rainbow Dash groaned. That's what we went all this trouble for? Just for a bunch of mumbo-jumbo numbers? Alright, don't look like no mumbo-jumbo to me, Applejack said, pointing at the numbers. You look mighty like coordinates to my eyes.
Coordinates to where?
Crescent Rose pondered aloud.
That's an awful lot of numbers for coordinates, though,
Said Fluttershy.
Perhaps we ought to travel to a large number of locations to extract the secrets of the elements.
Rarity thought out loud. That's an awful lot of traveling, Pike said.
Traveling to 1 grouse and 1,003 places would take us a really
Piggy! Twilight shouted, snapping out of her stupor. Her mane was beginning to curl oddly at ends.
really long time?
Piggy finished lamely.
I really wanted to say really 1 grouse and 1,003 times, Twilight.
And why is that?
Because that cipher is exactly 1 grouse and 1,003 lines long.
Twilight's eyes widened, before she practically threw herself onto the page again. Sure enough, by her count, there were exactly 113 lines and numbers. But more than that,
What makes you figure it's a cipher, Pinky?
Rarity asked.
Just a hunch.
A hunch, Twilight said with a bright smile.
That may be correct.
Pinky, you're a genius!
No, I'm not. I'm a bunny pony.
And with that, Pinky stood on her hind legs and threw her forelegs into the air with a boisterous grin, confetti erupting from seemingly nowhere as she spread her forelegs wide. Twilight arched an eyebrow at this dismay. Oh, Mom, Twilight, Spike asked, tugging at Twilight's tail lightly. I think I overheard you and Queen Celestia talking about ciphers before. But what is a cipher?
I'm glad you asked, Spike,
Twilight said with a smirk. Answering questions was one of her favorite hobbies.
A cipher is a way of concealing a message in plain text, so that no pony but the pony with the code can read the cipher. This particular cipher,
Twilight held up the Queen cipher in her Twimmer shimmer,
looks to me to be the bookworm cipher.
Rainbow Dash snorted, hastily disguising her laugh as a cough. Twilight glared at the Pegasus.
Laugh if you must, but I'll have you know that Bookworm was a very good scholar in linguistics.
He'd need to be, with a name like that, Rainbow Dash said in a strained voice, trying hard not to split her sides.
Anyway, the Bookworm cipher works like this. The first number here,
the 469 on the first line, lit up pink,
represents a page in a specific book. The second number,
the 27 next to that lit up,
represents a line on that specific page.
And the third number, 53 lit up, completing the line,
represents a letter in that particular line.
Noticing that her audience's eyes seemed to be glazing over, even those of the normally quite willful Applejack, Twilight cleared her throat. Noticing that her audience's eyes seemed to be glazing over, even those of the normally quite willful Applejack, Twilight cleared her throat.
Basically, on page 469, 27th line down from the top, and the 53rd letter in that line, will be the first letter of the message the Queen left us.
Rainbow Dash groaned loudly.
Oh, so many secret messages!
She shouted, her shouts echoing all around the Royal Archives main chamber. She thrashed her legs about widely, with each emphasized word.
Why in Tartarus doesn't Celestia just tell us?
Here's how to use the elements. Don't point them out at your face.
Why does it have to be all secrets all the time with you eggheads?
Calm your silly self down, Dashi,
Pinky squealed, squeezing Rainbow's muscle between her rubbery forehose.
It's not a secret. It's a surprise! Right, Twilight?
Twilight scratched under her mane, just over her withers.
Well, if you want to put it that way.
The lavender unicorn looked back down at the studies on Ponyville culture, eyes narrowed.
But I don't understand,
she said uneasily.
The cipher indicates pages in high 4 grosses, but this book is less than 3 gross pages long. What does does the cipher go to?
What book? Indeed! 8 hearts quickly froze to ice, spinning to face the entry from the foyer. Nightmare Moon was striding in, along with a veritable army of her nighttime guard. She was not wearing the same simple armor she was on the night of her return. She wore a fuller, more complete armor set, polished black, ear guards stretched up and curled behind her alicorn like the horns of the great devil lord of Tartarus. Narrow plates stretching from a steel saddle formed a ribcage-shaped barrier over her barrel. A black velvet cloak, bejeweled with white diamonds that shone like stars, draped over her hip and around her flanks. On her chest glowed a blue crescent-shaped gem, engraved with ancient runes of power. Her left foreleg was drawn up and slightly tucked under, a sick parody of Celestia's usual stance when addressing her subjects.
Well, are you surprised to see me?
Nightmare Moon hissed, her mouth full of fangs bared in the candlelight.
Not really,
Twilight snarled, already going through a cognitive list of spells that could get them out of Canterlot's boundaries quickly, so that way they could wink to somewhere safe.
It seems an awful lot like you were expecting us as well.
Nightmare Moon chuckled. A chilling sound, as he began to prowl amidst the 7 ponies and 1 drake, uninvited into her city. Up close, Twilight only just realized how tall Nightmare Moon was. She had to be at least 12.5 toes tall at the withers.
Why, of course I expected you and your subordinates to show up here in my city, Endymion,
she said lowly, her misty mane caressing the muzzle of each pony as she passed by.
And it seems you've made, well, quite the impression on my loyal guards ponies.
Loyalty my apple spy behind!
Applejack shouted, stomping a hoof with such force that the tile floor actually cracked from the force.
You're just a no-good tyrant, bending other ponies to your will, I think.
Nightmare Moon's eyes fell upon the Earth Pony farmer, and Applejack saw her death in those eyes. The dark Alicorn's mane and tail, splitting into tendrils as to strangle her. Applejack found herself backing away with flattened ears.
You would do well to hold your tongue,
the Alicorn growled.
You have already squandered my goodwill in sparing you by sneaking into my capital and assaulting my Nightmare Guard. You will join the captain of the Royal Guard in the prison block, and there you will rot, never to even see starlight or moonlight. Guards!
The Nightmare Guard platoon behind Nightmare Moon saluted as one, moving to either side of their Dark Queen, moving to capture the 7 conspirators. Crescent Rose bolted in front of Twilight, Spike, and the Pony villagers. standing firm before the Nightmare Guard.
Ah, Lieutenant,
Nightmare Moon said in a lifting hiss.
I was wondering why guards reported your armor as being found discarded in the alleyway. I won't let you take these ponies prisoner!
Crescent Rose shouted. The Nightmare Alicorn tyrant chuckled evilly.
Oh, I'm not going to take them captive,
she said in a low, almost seductive tone. Her mane billowed out, a fragment splitting off and descending toward Crescent Rose's head.
You are.
Looking up in surprise, Crescent Rose tried to dispel the cloud with her bat wings, but it engulfed her head, forcing itself into her head through her ears, nostrils, and tear ducts. Her pupils narrowed to even thinner slits.
Crescent!
Twilight cried, reaching out for her bat pony ally. Crescent Rose turned toward Twilight with a stumble, the whites of her eyes glowing a faint blue, a deep blue mist seeping from the edges of her eyes, running with fresh tears.
There now, my pet,
cooed Nightmare Moon.
Let her go!
Bellowed Rainbow Dash, attempting to bolt at the black Alicorn. The pink and periwinkle glimmer shimmers of Twilight and Rarity kept her beating wings in place.
Hey! Let me go!
Nightmare Moon's bat wings unfurled ominously.
You do well to obey your friends, you brass one. You shall only live by one creed from now on.
Praise the everlasting night!
Thunder cracked outside at that moment, lightning flashing through the skylights.
Now, my little pony slave,
Nightmare Moon said with a casual air,
place your 7 friends here under arrest. Would you kindly?
Crescent Moon stood dumbstruck before them, ears flickering up and down.
She breathed,
The bat pony jammed her eyes shut, the miasmic mist in her eyes dissipating. When she opened her eyes, they were completely normal. But before Twilight could so much as squeak in joy, Crescent Rose hissed to her,
listen to me.
Run! And don't look back!
Twilight hesitated. Was Crescent Rose suggesting what Twilight thought she was suggesting?
I'm a soldier. I'm expendable. If you fall here, so does any chance of the world going back to where it was. Just go!
Applejack whispered in Twilight's ear. I hate to say this, but I think we should do as she says. Twilight was loath to agree, but she had to admit she saw the logic in this. She wanted to get Crescent Rose out as well, so that they might all plot against Nightmare Moon. But if they failed here, then the elements would be robbed from them, and they would rot in prison cell, never to see light again.
I never thought I hate logic quite like this,
Twilight thought bitterly, but she gave a nod to Crescent Rose.
Well,
Nightmare Moon said to Crescent Rose impatiently.
As a soldier of the night,
she said furiously, turning toward a baffled Nightmare Moon.
I will live by this creed. Day and night are equals. It is preposterous to suggest that the aspirations of the Queen of Everlasting Night should endure. That the night is there after a bright, long day is a soothing thought. However, to believe that the night can surpass the day is a mere breezy tale.
Nightmare Moon snarled.
Do not utter that arcane creed before the Queen of Everlasting Night!
Her alicorn lit up cyan, purple bolts of light glancing at Crescent Rose, who took flight, circling around Nightmare Moon. At this point, Twilight scooped Spike up into her back, and led the herd of mares around the corrupted Queen of the Night.
Seize them! Do not let them escape!
The control guard stood at attention, Earth ponies standing firm, unicorns lowering their horns, the Pegasi and Bat ponies linking their wings together, attempting to block their path.
Spike!
Twilight took a deep breath and exhaled violently at the guards, a twister of bright green fire shooting toward them. Instinctively, the guards parted from the torrent of flames, casting a Dwemer shield before her. Twilight led the galloping charge down the path of fire, toward the exit. Twilight's shield shattered against a bright giant Dwemer shield. Twilight herself, skidding to a stop just in front of Nightmare Moon's shield. She felt muzzle tingling and how close she was to the shield, just as her fellow ponies skidded to a stop behind her. "Great!" mused Rainbow Dash, watching the Nightmare Guard recovering and gathering around them, looking quite fearful with the dancing green flames around them. "Now what do we do?"
"I'll try to break the enchantment on the shield,"
Twilight said, spell matrices already lining up in her mind.
"In the meantime, try to keep those guards at bay."
"Easier said than done, darling,"
Rarity said, as she aimed a buck at a unicorn guard diving at her, striking him in the chin and sending him stumbling.
"The Nyxtameron keeps the world in balance and harmony!"
Crescent Rose bellowed to the dark Alicorn Queen, a twister beginning to form around her foe.
"The idea that the sun should never rise because of a bitter heart is a delusion meant to keep me living in fear!"
"You know nothing of fear, you fool!" Nightmare Moon shrieked in return, trying to get a bead on Crescent Rose, her own bat wings flapping in a counter to the reluctant bat pony. Applejack lassoed a Pegasus guard by the legs, tripping her up. When she tried to fly up and tackle the farmer mare, she was met with a headbutt to the jaw, and was out like a light. Rainbow Dash utilized her patent-pending Rainbow Dry to stir up a storm amongst the advancing guard. At least a dozen were caught in her makeshift twister, flying about and trying to break free. Crescent Rose continued her decree.
"The night freezes, so the sun shall keep us warm. But the night offers freedom that the day denies. We walk in the daylight, but we would burn under its rays over time. The sun is not greater than the moon in a world without eternal night. The moon shall only gleam as subtly. It is a ridiculous notion."
An amethyst bolt struck Crescent Rose in the side, as he fell to the floor with a cry. "Ah!" The nighttime guard turned to face the fall of their queen's foe, as did the 6 mares and Drake she had smuggled into the city. "Crescent!" Twilight screamed, wanting to gallop to her friend, but the collapse of the cyan field behind her tore up her inside. Crescent Rose was in mortal danger, but Twilight and her comrades needed to escape armed with new information. The smell of Sin's fur filled the air.
"It is a ridiculous notion,"
Crescent Rose continued defiantly.
"to think we should all live without the Nyxtameron, the cycle of sun and moon."
Nightmare Moon snorted loudly, clouds of black smoke emerging from her nostrils.
"The moon cares not for the barking of a dog,"
she growled gutturally.
"I will only give you this order one more time.
"Take them down to the cell block!"
"No!" Crescent Rose snarled, pawing at the ground, exhaling snarfully from her nose.
"You can't make me!"
"But I can unmake you,"
Nightmare Moon hissed, her mane swelling tremendously, and reaching numerous tendrils toward the rebellious bat pony, who was snatched up before she knew what was happening. Crescent Rose shrieked in pain before the miasmic cloud of Nightmare Moon's mane completely engulfed her. In a panic, Twilight fired a Dwemer beam at the shield Nightmare Moon had raised, but the cyan field held firm. Crescent Rose's screams faded away, and the Dark Queen's mane shrunk to its original size. Crescent Rose was gone. There was no body to be found. "Oh, no. No! Please, Mr. Arthur, don't!" Twilight's jaw was agape, her leonine tail gone slack. Crescent Rose couldn't be. She just couldn't be!
"Come on, Twilight!"
Rainbow Dash shouted.
"We gotta get out of here!"
On instinct, Twilight obeyed the flight of her first fight-or-flight response, galloping past the desk in the Royal Archives foyer, and out into the double doors onto the streets beyond. The street leading back to Main Square was now full to bursting with Earth Pony and Unicorn Guards ponies. The skies above were filled with Pegasi and Bat ponies. Every single one of them looked to be under Nightmare Moon's mind control.
"We're surrounded!"
gasped Twilight.
"Oh no!"
Fluttershy shuddered, huddling close to the ground. "Now this is a foul mess!" A miasmic mist tore over their heads from out of the Canterlot archives, coalescing over the battalions of Nightmare Guards into Nightmare Moon, wings flapping and hovering in place.
Do not let them escape!
Nightmare Moon ordered.
They must not be allowed to leave Endymion!
Look! Piggy cried, pointing up to the sky. It's a thingy, and it looks like it's a fiery flamey thingy.
Twilight looked up. She gaped at what looked like to be a veritable twister of fire, a tornado that was plummeting towards Canterlot. Specifically, the very street they were standing at the edge of. Nightmare Moon looked up, scowling at the incoming tornado of flame, and beat her wings to intercept it, her body trailing into miasmic mist as she shot upwards. At a collision of golden fire and blue miasma, the tornado and Nightmare Moon collided, clashing with one another in midair over the capital. Nightmare Moon shot blasts of glimmer-shimmer energy and purple bolts of lightning, but her foe, whoever and whatever it was too fast. The Nightmare Guard would have risen to the Queen's defense, but it was not for the Wonderbolts. Whether it was by great coincidence, or because they happened to glimpse the tornado descending onto Canterlot, Twilight did not know. But the Wonderbolts died upon the Nightmare Guard mere moments after Nightmare Moon engaged the tornado. It was not just that the trio had first attempted to battle Nightmare Moon when the night became eternal.
Oh my gosh!
That's Fire Streak!
Rainbow Dash had entered the fangirl mode so quickly that Twilight would wonder if she could ever get out of it again.
And there's his brother, Lightning Streak! They're shooting fire and lightning at him! That's so awesome! She gasped.
And Blaze? I thought she was still recovering from crashing in that race. Wait, is that Surprise? Surprise? Piggy cut in. I just seen my Granny Pie.
No, Rainbow Dash grumbled. That white Pegasus over there, with the yellow mane, popping balloons at guards' faces. See her? That's Surprise the Wonderbolt!
Ooh, that's surprising.
Piggy lilted, causing Rainbow Dash to palm her face in a hoof. Twilight gaped. 11 Pegasi, holding their own against scores of Royal Guard. If her cursory knowledge of the Wonderbolts held true, then that meant all 11 Wonderbolts were in battle right now. Even though she only really knew of them through the bets that Canterlot nobles placed on the races that Wonderbolts held against each other, she was sure that Rainbow Dash's idolization of them stemmed from something closer to that than to this. Captain Spitfire was casting fire, along with Blaze and Fire Streak. Fleetfoot, Rapid Fire, and High Winds darted with blinding speed. Soren, Wave Chill, and Misty Fly deflected attacking guards with erratic gusts of wind. Silver Lining sent many tornadoes flying with a flick of his tail. A Surprise had an uncanny ability to always be behind her opponent to pop a balloon. Rainbow Dash was practically frothing at the mouth in excitement. Her hooves clamped to either side of her muzzle.
So awesome!
The Nightmare Guard were soon to retreat, and Spitfire took active notice of the 6 mares and 1 drake at the doors of the Royal Archives.
Soren, you get that rainbow maned Bronco! Spitfire ordered.
Roger, Wilco Walnut, Captain Spitfire! Soren said, with a snappy salute.
Bronco?
Echoed Rainbow Dash in an insulted tone.
Fleetfoot, the yellow one!
Yes, ma'am.
Silver Lining, the white one!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Surprise, the pink one!
Okie dokie Loki! She even has my catchphrase!
Squealed Pinky in delight. Wait till, orange one! Already on it. And I'll take the purple one. Rest of you, keep the skies clear!
Each order was given, and followed up in a surprisingly quick fashion. Each Wonderbolt taking the ponies they were ordered to carry under their forelegs, looping their forehooves under the barrel of the mare they were set to carry. Spike slid off Twilight's back to make room for Spitfire, and Twilight scooped him up in her own forehooves. The 6 Wonderbolts flew up over the retreating Nightmare Guard, passengers in tow as they soared between the minarets of Canterlot's high-rises, beelining for the Run.
You know, I can fly by myself,
Rainbow Dash offered weakly to Soren. The Wonderbolt stallion looked ahead to Spitfire with a tentative smile.
Orders are orders, Soren, she said without looking back. You keep that bucking Bronco under control, and maybe she'll learn that there's more to being a Wonderbolt than being a good flyer. Excuse me?
Rainbow Dash snapped, struggling under Soren's grip around her barrel.
You think I'm not good enough for the Wonderbolts? Humility, self-control, devotion to duty, learning from one's mistakes, working well with others.
Spitfire recited from over Twilight's head.
These are all attributes that we look into for new recruits, and I haven't seen those qualities in you. You've only seen me like twice,
Rainbow Dash said, wiggling free and spreading her wings, flapping alongside Soren.
And I've been to all your shows since I was 4. Soren, restrain that Bronco,
Spitfire said. Twilight blinked. Spitfire wasn't even looking back. Was she that attuned to flight that she could sense all of these things happening around without her eyes? Soren, or his part, clamped all 4 of his legs around Rainbow Dash's barrel, his hind legs binding her wings to her sides. It looked remarkably awkward for Soren to maintain such a hold, but he managed. Rainbow struggled for only a moment or two, before her ears fell and legs hung slack.
Well, I admire your tenacity,
Spitfire continued.
If you really want to join our reserves, you'll need to take a test on history. Then, you'll be substituted to an aeronautics test to see to it that your wings are in prime condition, that you preen them frequently enough, that you have the right body dimensions for high-speed flying maneuvers. Then, you'll need to take a personality test to see that you really have the stuff mentally for our...
Spitfire trailed off, and Twilight was unnerved. She could almost imagine Spitfire's ears swelling this way and that, trying to pick up some sort of sound.
Evasive action!
She bellowed, and each Wonderbolt and Passer looped up around, narrowly avoiding what looked like lightning shooting up from the ground. Swinging her head around so fast that her head ached, Twilight witnessed the other 5 Wonderbolts in battle, with at least half a dozen other Pegasi in dark purple suits.
The Saddle Bolts!
Spitfire swore.
We have to hightail it out here. This is Make Your Mama's Proud Time, girls!
I love my mama,
Squealed Pinky, almost slipping out of Surprise's grip.
All right, Wonderbolts!
Spitfire said through gritted teeth, and the wind against Twilight's eyes suddenly intensified.
It's time we show them where we got our name from!
In a flash, or at least, Twilight assumed there would be a flash from where they were that the others down below in Canterlot could see. The 6 Wonderbolts picked up speed, the sound of their ears dying away as they entered a tunnel of wind, swirling lightning. Twilight almost felt Spike slipping out of her hooves, but a little adjustment on her hold on him with her Dwemer Shimmer, and he was fine. It seemed to last for eternity, but in just seconds they were at the edge of Canterlot, the Darwin passing by underneath, slowing down to a modest speed. The Wonderbolts descended to the ground. Twilight and each of her companions touched toes to the ground tentatively. They were only in flight for less than 5 minutes, but each had lost their bearings to some degree. Applejack was almost green to the face, tipping back and forth, while Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie seemed almost unfazed.
What was that thing that attacked Nightmare Moon?
Twilight questioned.
Yeah, that looked amazing!
Spike teared.
A Wonderbolt's military technique,
Spitfire said shortly, rubbing a hoof on her chest.
Takes a lot of magic to pull off something like that.
I must say, that was quite a trip,
Randy said, a hoof to her forehead.
You're telling me?
Rainbow Dash said, stretching her wings out.
My wings are still sore about that!
Sorry about that, Soren said with a nervous smile, scratching the back of his head.
If you learned to follow my orders, Spitfire retorted, you would have ended up in that position! Newsflash, Captain!
Rainbow Dash snarled in return.
I'm not a Wonderbolt, she smirked. Yet. At the rate you're going, you wouldn't make it into the Wonderbolts even if you lived to be a dozen gross years old!
The pair growled at each other, before Fleetfoot burst in between them.
Captain, newbie, calm down, she said,
her cerise ears flaring.
We already have enough enemies in the world of Nightmare Moon. Do we need to make enemies amongst ourselves?
Spitfire and Rainbow Dash rubbed a four-legged saying.
Sorry about that, Fleetfoot, Spitfire sighed. The Eternal General would be happy to see that display.
Eternal General? Rainbow echoed.
It's what the Wonderbolts nicknamed their founder, General Firefly.
Twilight explained. It's symbolic of a Wonderbolt's duty to follow the principles she founded the Wonderbolts on.
But isn't Daryl Firefly, like, dead?
Spitfire shook her head.
A pony never truly dies, as long as there's some pony who remembers them.
Applejack doffed her Stetson. Words to live by. Spitfire stood at attention.
Now then, we've made sure you 7 made it out safe.
We owe you our lives, Twilight said, bowing slightly.
Thank you so much for your help,
said Fluttershy, miming Twilight. Spitfire waved a hoof dismissively.
Think nothing of it. All in the line of duty.
She faced her 5 compatriots.
All right, Wonderbolts, it's time to spread some more light to the corners of Equestria. Let's bolt!
In a shuddering boom, the 6 Wonderbolts lit to the skies, leaving behind 6 identical streaks of sun-colored lightning, which remained in the air long after they left Sallow Valley.
Whoa,
Twilight gasped and awed. That is some advanced magic.
what is it, Twilight?
Fluttershy asked timidly. I don't know. It looks like it's some sort of fire made out of lightning. Or lightning made out of fire? I don't know. But I do know it's providing daylight and the warmth of day. This was true. The sky above seemed to be much lighter, and the air seemed to be less chilled than before. Rarity let out a deep, long sigh, stretching her hind legs, then forelegs.
It certainly helps to loosen up these achy joints.
So,
Rainbow Dash addressed Twilight.
what did we learn from all this?
The past half a dozen and a half minutes came rushing back to Twilight, and the rush of the advent of the Wonderbolts, the near miss with the Shadowbolts, and discovery of the Sunbolts. Twilight had completely forgotten about what they came to Canterlot to gain, and what they lost.
Crescent Rose,
Twilight sobbed, collapsing onto her barrel, ears drooping. Spike clutched at one of her hosts sadly.
Al,
Never knew any bad ponies, Applejack said in a low, somber tone.
but
I'll offer a free cider to any bad pony who drives by Ponyville who knew Crescent before this happened.
that was really very brave of her.
Fluttershy sighed.
A very brave soul to stand up to Nightmare Moon in such a fashion.
Rarity looked up to the stars.
or very stupid!
6 pairs of eyes glowered at Rainbow Dash. She shrugged.
What? I'll just say it. Why didn't she pretend like she was hypnotized and sneak us out a back way or something like that, instead of trying to fight?
See, when she put her issue with Crescent Rose's sacrifice like that, Rainbow Dash's point was more easily taken.
Maybe she just didn't think of it like that,
Twilight said, looking down at her hooves as she swished blades of grass through the toes of her hoof.
I know, right?
Piggy said, bouncing down.
It's like on those days when I realized I didn't remember to buy any balloons for the party, and I'm like, ah!
She let out a loud gasp. Not quite so loud as the day she met Pinky, but very close.
Kind of like that. And then I realized I always had 6 balloons on me all the time. So I just balanced myself on the party table, and I let little falls hold onto my tail and pretend it's a balloon string.
Upon realizing she was getting odd looks, Pinky slunk down to the ground, her pink color starting to fade to blue, mane and tail seeming to deflate slightly.
Sorry. I'll just stop being happy.
No, not at all, Pinky, Twilight said with a sad smile. Crescent Rose may have been out of her head, putting up with a lot of pressure and standing against Nightmare Moon. But in the end, we got out of Canterlot, or Endymion, I'm guessing Nightmare Moon is calling it now.
We're trying not to forget what Crescent Rose did for all of us,
Applejack said, her Stetson pulled low over her forelock.
We never would have gotten out of the city without her help,
Rarity said pensively.
Oh, Twilight? I'm sorry for asking, but
Fluttershy began hesitantly.
But you do have that cipher, don't you?
Of course I did, Twilight said, fisting out the sun-marked scrap of parchment from one of her saddlebags. I hid the cipher in my saddlebag as soon as I heard Nightmare Moon's voice.
Nice one, Twilight!
Rainbow said, with a smirk and a flexing foreleg.
But what book does it go to?
Rarity asked.
Oh, is this another guessing game?
Piggy squealed. If I had to guess, Twilight thought aloud. I would think that this key goes for the unabridged copies of studies on Ponyville culture. And one of the only copies I know that any pony has is in the ownership of A.K. Yearling. Rainbow Dash gasped. She was the only other one who seemed to recognize that name. No way! The author of the Daring Do series owns a copy of that book? She unfurled her wings as far as they would go. What are we waiting for? Twilight snickered a little. Rainbow Dash, your egghead is showing. Rainbow Dash's muzzle scrunched up, eyes darting back and forth nervously. She tried to save face by giving a cocking grin and saying, Come on, Twilight! What I meant is, what are we waiting for? We need to get that book, and fast! We can't go, Twilight said shortly. What? Why not? Because I don't know where A.K. Yearling lives. Rainbow Dash was not the only one to give Twilight an incredulous look at this admission. You what? Rainbow Dash echoed emphatically. Wait up, hold on, back up a bit. You, Twilight Sparkle, the egghead, don't know where one author lives? Shocking, isn't it? Twilight replied flatly. But honestly, have you ever read her autobiography? Rainbow Dash scoffed. I don't read any more than I need to. Well, if you read her autobiography, you know A.K. Yearling uses her copy of Studies of Ponyville Culture for resources in her books. You would also know that she likes her privacy. No pony knows where she lives, not even her editors, so we can't use her copy of the book. Thankfully, I do happen to know where a copy of the unabridged studies of Ponyville culture exists. Where? Inside the Crystal Mountains, right on the edge of the Sea of Eris, at the northernmost edge of Equestria. The Crystal Mountains? Echoed Spike. The mountains themselves are hollowed out, where the Queen places items of utmost importance to the security of the realm. Security there is extremely tight, which is why I wanted us to come here to Canterlot first. On Nile? Under Nightmare Moon? Applejack mused. Twilight exhaled sadly, looking down at her hose. Maybe we should have gone to the Crystal Mountains first. Security there will have only tightened. Rarity placed a hoof under Twilight's chin, bringing her face up.
Let it be, Twilight. What's done is done. We can take our time, figure it out at our own pace. The Wonder Bolts can keep Equestria warm with those heavenly bolts of sunlight of theirs. In the meantime, we can figure out some way to work our way through the security of those Crystal Mountains.
Do you think I could eat through them, Twilight? Spike asked secretly, salivating slightly. Entire mountains of crystal. It sounds so delicious! Twilight took note of the odd looks that every pony was giving to Spike, and recalled that she was the only one with close experience with a dragon. Dragons eat gemstones, Twilight explained shortly, in addition to their normal carnivorous diet.
I see,
Rarity said curtly, examining a twisted piece of metal she had produced from her salad bag.
Rarity, is that... I'm afraid so, Twilight. This is what remains of my razor. Oh, Rarity, I'm so sorry. I know how important your looks are to you. Oh, water under the bridge, Twilight,
Rarity said, with a wave of her hoof, flinging the mangled razor off the cliff's edge beside her.
Your needs and Equestria's were greater than my own. I had the means to your ends, and I supplied it gladly.
Rarity, Twilight said with a smile, you really are a great and generous friend. Rarity giggled shortly.
Thank you, Twilight, my dear.
All right, enough with the sappy stuff, Rainbow Dash said with mirth. Let's regroup down at Ponyville. Right! The six others said with joy. Twilight's Alicorn began to glow with pink light. Spike, Applejack, and Rarity first at her sides. Pinky, Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash, also making sure to keep close so that Twilight could link them all back to Ponyville's outskirts. As they disappeared from sight, a faint purple glow, unseen by any of them, seemed to emanate from inside Rarity's shadow bags. And so, lay to rest Crescent Rose, an awesome OC who gave her life so that way the sun may rise and harmony could reign again. She gave her life to protect a team of brave heroes,
of great characters. We must remember in the time of reading these adventures that it is not always just the main characters and the main heroes that are the great ones of our stories, but sometimes the heroes who help others and support one another. For after I have read once, a true hero is not the one who stands above others, but stands with others. And finally, why is it that every time I get attached to a great OC and a story that I'm really beginning to enjoy, a story that I really, really love, that the author decides to kill them off? Why? Why did you do that to me, writer? Why did you kill off a character I like?